Hey there, Carter. So I just had the pleasure of reading your draft submission for your Essay 3 letter to Drake, and I think you're off to a really good start. It was super fun to read your essay and see your ideas really starting to take shape and take off here. So I'm going to walk through the essay with you, and I'll point to some things that I think are already working well, and then I'll give you some suggestions along the way to help you think about taking this essay up to the next level before you turn it in for the final draft. Really great job kicking off this essay. I think you've really set the stage nicely here, and you've sort of identified a voice that's one of connection and respect, where I think that Jake would feel connected to you right off the bat. And you're sort of using your own authentic voice, which I think works really well. My only suggestion for the thesis, or I'm sorry, for the intro, is to offer an overall thesis claim or position statement at the end of the introduction so that Jake knows exactly what to expect in the body. Now, you kind of allude to that right here at the start of your next paragraph, but generally speaking, having your thesis at the end of your intro paragraph really helps to sort of set the direction for the rest of the essay and sort of bring your reader up to speed on what they can expect you to develop and support in the rest of the essay. So something like, I just gave you an example here. Ultimately, Jake, all of these perspectives will demonstrate that in order to live the good life, you should quit your current job and pursue nursing school. So you don't need to use my exact phrasing there, but something kind of along those lines that will let Jake know that this is what you're going to advise him to do. And then you dive into Socrates. I think you do a really nice job of summarizing all the different parts of Socrates' charioteer metaphor and really laying that out for Jake. I just had a few small suggestions within this paragraph in terms of word choice. So when you say spirit, you're absolutely right, but a lot of lay people who haven't studied philosophy may not know exactly what spirit refers to. So I was just going to suggest after the word spirit to put in parentheses or willpower. That'll kind of let Jake know what you mean by that, because you're probably going to use willpower more in the essay than the word spirit. So that's just a one little suggestion. Here, I think rather than having the word ideas, desires would probably be the more accurate term. And maybe you were trying not to keep it too close to Socrates, but since we're summarizing him, I think it's perfectly fine if you want to, use his same language. So desires would be, or lusts or something like that would be a good word choice there. And then, yes, this is great. To have a healthy psyche, Socrates would argue that the chariot needs to be in harmony. Granted, you enjoy your current job. Okay, this is where I'm going to actually suggest that you slow down because that's a really good point. He enjoys his current job. Now, how can you tie that to the Socrates metaphor? What does his current job represent? Really, he's getting all of these pleasures and lusts sort of met in the moment in the current job. And so how is it serving his appetites? What's he gaining from this job? It's quick, it's easy, it's fun. Maybe you can tease that out a little bit here to kind of show Jake, right now, your white horse is getting all kinds of needs met, right? That white horse. And then when you talk about it being out of balance later, I think it's going to make more sense to him. Then after you flesh that out a little, you could segue into this idea. Jake, you even state yourself that you want to help people and having a chance to become a nurse will greatly impact people more than serving them alcohol. I love that you're throwing his words kind of back at him to help him see how his reason is really nudging him away from the appetite. So I love that you bring that in there. If you decide not to go to school, your psyche would eventually become imbalanced. As you know, your yearning to help people would overcome the small pleasures you get at your current job. I love this last sentence. I think this is just so thoughtful and so spot on in terms of what's going on. The only thing, I love the word yearning here. The only thing I got tripped up on was the word overcome because it makes it seem as though nursing school wins out in this situation. I actually think what you're trying to say is that if you don't go to school, you're always going to have this tension in your life. You're always going to have this urge to do this bigger thing that you never actually get to do. So I made some other suggestions for what you might replace the word overcome with. Maybe something like be undermined by, or you will always be battling the small pleasures you get at your current job. So something to really, I think, illustrate that tension is what you want there. So those are just some of my suggestions, but you're willing to think of others if you'd like. But really nice job with that last piece. Awesome segue here. I love your I love your voice. It's just so you, and I think it's so conversational, and so it's almost like you're Jake's friend. And so I just love the tone that you're striking in this essay. I think it's great. So you go into high quality and low quality pleasures. I think this is really interesting. This is something that humans share with animals, like basking in the sun. I would only advise adding on to that point that something like basking in the sun, low quality pleasures, they take no work, they take no effort. This is why animals, can achieve them. They're just kind of this, this something that, like, eating or laying in the sun or getting a massage or something like that, scratching an itch. I don't know, all of these things don't really take a lot of effort. So I think it's important to mention that. Examples like these really don't take much effort, because Jake needs to see that effort is linked to this choice that he's making. Sure, it's tempting to go with an effortless job, but what you're really trying to say here is that putting the effort in is worth it. So I think it's important to follow that up with that little piece about low effort. Higher quality pleasures are things that not only humans can do, that only humans can do. So great distinction. They require critical thought and analysis, art, philosophy, acting, things like that. The way that you can bring the highest quality pleasures to your life right now would be to prove to yourself that you can finish nursing school and fulfill your desire to help people. This is all very good. My only suggestion here is that I don't think you sold Jake on the importance of high quality pleasures yet. So I think you need to dig in a little bit more at the end here. And one way to do that would be to talk about fecundity. Low quality pleasures are not fecund. They're repeatable, but they're not fecund in the same way that high quality pleasures are. If you remember, John Stuart Mill talks about how high quality pleasures are fecund because the longer you do them, like playing a sport or playing an instrument or speaking a foreign language, the easier they become and the more pleasure they produce. They produce increased pleasure the longer that you do it. As my job as a teacher gets easier, it produces increased pleasure for me. When I first started teaching, it was incredibly stressful. I was way in over my head. I was learning super fast. I was writing lesson plans the night before I had to teach them. I was on the verge of throwing up with nerves and anxiety. But now that I've been teaching for 20 years, I've gained the skill and the comfort with it that it's super, super fun and pleasurable. And so only high quality pleasures are those things that you can hone and get better at to such an extent that they really do just produce a sense of pleasure. Okay, so you could talk about that in terms of fecundity. And the other way that fecundity applies here is that it opens more doors to new opportunities. So if Jake goes to nursing school, what opportunities may present himself as a nurse in the medical field that perhaps wouldn't present themselves at the resort? And I'm just thinking of my cousin as an example. She's a nurse. And one day she was in a parking lot and a woman started to, I don't know if it was a choking incident or if she was having a heart attack. But anyways, my cousin administered some kind of medical intervention. It might have been CPR and it might have been the Heimlich, I can't recall. But she essentially saved this woman's life. And I imagine that there's no greater sense of accomplishment than you could feel in life than to step in at the right moment with the right skill set and be able to do something like that. And so what kinds of opportunities could Jake be equipped with if he goes to nursing school that maybe he wouldn't be equipped with if he just stayed at the resort? So really fleshing that idea out a little bit more. The rec park is a nice example to use. I think it's wonderful that you're pulling that in. I'm suggesting a transition sentence here, something that hooks the idea that you just left, and you can read that note. It's all on there. Be sure to cite where this source is coming from. You mention it in the Works Cited page, so just be sure to use an author tag here or a signal phrase. So according to this article or this video, published in such and such, or by this author, this is what happened in this study. So just give credit for it within the actual essay itself. Okay, this piece about him feeling caged like the rats. I love that you're drawing this connection. I think it's really cool and I think it works. I'm just going to suggest that you tease it out a little further. Why do you think that he might feel caged? What was it that he said in his own letter that gives you the sense that this is not going to be enough and that he may not be satisfied here long term? You might want to think about pulling some of his own words out, just as you did earlier in the essay, to show him, see, Jake, Your reason is actually telling you that this is what you need if you want to experience the Rat Park life. And right now, your box is a little too small for that. So maybe just teasing that out a little bit more. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just be sure to have an author tag in there. And then also really drive home the point about self-actualization as the greatest way to achieve the best possible life. I'm going to give you these written comments so you can go ahead and scroll through these if you want. I don't want to make you listen to this video so much longer because I'm really verbose here. But awesome conclusion. You've got your works cited page here. So really great work, Carter. I'd say keep going with this. Reach out to me and or to Eric if you have any other questions as you're revising, but you are off to an awesome start. But don't stop, keep going. This essay could really jump up quite a bit if you work on some of those things that I just talked with you about. So thanks, Carter. Can't wait to read your final.